is here's a pheasant skin that I've skinned out, and then I've had it pinned out on a board to dry, and I've gotten a lot of the fat, scraped the fat off, and it's been on the board drying, but it still has a bad smell on it. Still, a lot of the inside feathers here are still greasy. You can see they're sticking to the skin, and we can get rid of all that, and you could have nice clean feathers, and it'll be 100% useful. Also, someone might give you a bag of feathers, like a bag of pheasant feathers, or someone gives you a bird and you don't necessarily want to mess with the skin. You just want to pluck the feathers off and wash those. You can do that. Another one is like mallard flank. Generally, hunters will give you mallard, and you just take that mallard and put it in a bag. It's very stinky, it's greasy, it's dirty, because duck or any kind of waterfowl is extremely greasy. Also, upland birds have their share of grease as well. So they have to be washed before you start to use them and before you store them. Yourself a 5-gallon bucket or a 2-gallon bucket, any kind of container, and to about 3 gallons of water, and you're going to use hot tap water. So anyway, we're going to fill this bucket up with about 3 gallons of water, and to that we're going to add a half a cup of laundry detergent, and I'm not advertising any brand, so you can use any kind you want. And you're going to use about 1/3 of a cup of dishwashing soap. Most of it, all the dishwashing soaps today are advertised as being grease cutters. Also, I add a 1/4 of a cup of borax. Just take your whole skin and you drop it into your solution, and you can take your wings and put those into the solution. Now, if you have loose feathers, we can take a smaller container, just dilute. This is a 2-gallon, so just kind of measure your soaps for that 2-gallon. Put your hot water in there. And then you just take your loose feathers out of the bag, and there'll be a mixture here of loose feather, and just put them in your soapy solution. And when you dry it, it's going to be nice and fluffy. And some of you in your time might use that fluff or something. Put it in there, and I suggest that you let them soak. Birds, for example, I'd let those soak from 2 to 4 hours. Depending on how dirty they are. You can tell when you take your bird out of the water gently, you can tell if the soap is working. You can just see that the grease is starting to roll right off of it. You just have to handle it gently and leave it soak. There, it's going to do its work. Now we're going to let these soak for a period of time, and then we'll come back and show you the next steps on how to handle that bird after it comes out of the wash water. All right, now we've let our bird soak in the water, the wash water, and we're ready to take her out and to rinse it and then begin the drying process. Now, take your bird out gently, as I said, because you don't want it to break up any more than it already is if it happens to be broken. And gently just hold on to it. Gently just hold on to it and rinse it in warm water. Just let it flow on the feathers. it up and let it flow on the skin. And I realize that this looks like very damaging, but it's not at all. This bird is not the best bird as far as the quality of the bird, but it will do for demonstration purposes. I'll show you later some birds that have been washed by hand, just like this, like I've showed you, that have come out just magnificently. Now, here he is. He doesn't look like much, but believe it or not, when we get him dried out, and he's going to be really a nice pelt. Just take your towel and roll your bird up in the towel. Just like that. That's going to take out a ton of water. Lay him out and let him dry naturally. Feels like it's getting dry to touch. You can get your old trusty hairdryer, and I'll show you how to do that in a moment. Look at our feathers that are single feathers. There they are. They're floating in the soap solution. You can see how cruddy that soap solution is. And there's a lot of soap in there. Okay. Now, one thing you do have to come up with is a strainer. Just a regular old kitchen strainer. And you just take your feathers, pour them in there. Now remember, this is all kinds of feathers, all loose feathers that came off the bird. And some of them you'll be able to tell what they are, some aren't, just by looking at them. But really, there's a host of fly-tying feathers out of this loose feather. And I just rinse those in the strainer. And you can see it's taking out a lot of soap. Now we're going to do just like we did the skin. We're going to take this, gently squeeze out the water. Once that's done, you can just leave it out on the towel and just kind of break up your pieces like this. Just put a smaller amount in here, then you can dry this, and once they get completely dry, then you can add another new batch of feathers. That strainer is wonderful, and I use an old pantyhose, and you just stretch that pantyhose. That's going to be your drying room on this old pantyhose. Okay, let's show you how to do that. Set your hair dryer, and then what you're going to do is just run this hair. It's going to take a little while, and shake it once in a while as they begin to. And what I do is I ruffled grouse, and how this was just a regular bird that was shot and brought in, and I cleaned it, and I mount them on a piece of just construction paper, and then I slide them into a plastic bag, and that's how I lay it. And then I just lay them into my fly tying cabinet, and that's how I can pull this out and pull feathers off any way I want. And you could just stack them right in the drawer. This is a Reeves pheasant. This happens to be the cape, back and the back, and this is the shoulder feathers. But look how lovely they are, and there's no grease. Everything's usable. Again, this is the silver pheasant, and clean, no shiny grease, and it's ready to use. So you can see you can do any kind of bird. Water won't hurt it. Soap and water and a little bit of time, and you won't have insects and you won't have problems. We at Whitetail Fly Time, we treat all our birds this way, and if you have questions about how to do this, either on hair or whatever it may be, other type of birds that you get, give us a call. I'd be happy to talk to you and walk you through it. I mean, that's what we do.